Mitch Marner and Darren Ferris both gave interviews within a week of each other, essentially saying the same things.
2 days.
And so we got to start with that. And I know there are a lot of non-Leaf fans that listen to this podcast. I know there are a lot of Leaf fans that listen to this podcast. And I can tell you, just if you're from an outside market, I can tell you most Leaf fans are just tired of this and want to move on.
Oh, no. This segment is for non-Leaf fans.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah.
No. You guys got a lot to say. Let's talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk.
So it started with Darren Ferris doing an interview with John Shannon and Darren Millard on 100% Hockey, which is a great hockey podcast that's done through the NHL. And I thought that was interesting because I'm like, this is a hockey podcast that is quite literally housed on the NHL website.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't Millard work with the Golden Knights?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He moved down there after
a few years ago.
Yeah, when they launched or something. Like, he's been there a while, which is crazy.
Might be an inaugural guy. Yeah. Anyway,
him and Gary Lawless, I think, because Lawless was at TSN. But anyway, long story short, Jesse, I've sent you the link through on the NHL site. Mm-hmm. I want to start with at 12:44 of the podcast because Darren Ferris, who is obviously Mitch Marner's agent, well known in this market, talking about social media and the mainstream coverage that playing for the Leafs can take on a family. Now he makes sure to couch it in, well, this can happen anywhere, but we know it's the Leafs and we know it's particularly pointed. So let's have a listen to how he answers that question, because I think it's a really good one.
But it's not that glamorous, is it?
No, it's not. You're not there, when there's those calls late at night, or whether it's from a player or a family, it's a lot different than most could imagine. And I know it sounds like it is, but there's the trials and tribulations. There's the anxiety from players you got to control. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and even at night thinking about it. And even in Mitch's deal, I wanted that to go to free agency and do the whole dog and pony show. He didn't want to do it, but I was all set to do it. And but we didn't end up. We ended up getting a result that he's happy with.
Well, now that you brought it up, we can ask it. How do you? I mean, this was a noisy year for Mitch Marner and for you.
I thought that was an interesting choice.
How did you manage that?
Well, one part people don't always see is the toll the social media, mainstream coverage can take on a player and their family. Mitch went through years of that. At the end of every season, instead of being able to breathe and reset, and his family were bracing for the storm. The negativity, the blame, the hate, it was just directed at him and spilled over to other people closest to him. That creates a dangerous environment. And there were even times where, police had to be involved. Through it all, Mitch showed incredible strength. But at the end of the day, he's more than a hockey player. He's a son, a brother, and now a new father, to a young boy. And protecting that side of him has always been just as important as negotiating the contracts. When it comes time to make a decision about his future, it wasn't about chasing the last dollar. He had opportunities to make more money elsewhere, but what mattered to him was finding a place he could focus on playing the game he loves. Where's his family?
So obviously that's sort of the start of, because they do a little bit preamble. That's sort of the start of the Mitch Marner contract stuff. And I think what is interesting there, and you're going to see this sort of play out throughout in some of these answers, and I'm only going to take 2 or 3 of them, is they talk about the noise, or Shannon mentions the noise. Yeah. They talk about how hard it can be on the family, and I thought this was interesting, well, there was never a break. And later on in one of these answers, and I forget which one, he's going to mention, it always happened at the end of the season. It always seemed to happen at the end of the season. And Leaf fans know why. And I want to move to the next quote, because at 15:02 there, Jesse, how much did the noise play into him leaving? And they go into a very specific story, which we also talked a little bit about on the show in the spring when it happened.
Okay.
Vegas and how they treat the players and their families too. And once he knew that, his mind was made up at the end of the season. And, from my perspective as an agent, I would have preferred him to go through the full process, sit down with multiple teams and explore every option. But for him, it was clear he didn't want to go through that, as I said, dog and pony show and go to free agency when he already knew where he wanted to be. Safety for his family and being in the right environment mattered most. And my job at that point simply was to support his decision and help him get there. At the end of the day, his focus now is entirely on what's ahead, and he believes Vegas is the right place for him, and his energies is on helping that team win. So,
are you able to put a percentage, if you could, on how much of a factor the noise and the environment in Toronto played in this?
I think it accumulated over the years. This wasn't something that was just new. This was going way back and then going through the Babcock fiasco. And there were other things that are not public I'm not going to bring out. And it was just constant negativity and misinformation in the public. And then, you can't blame the fans. They react to what they hear, and sometimes it's misinformation. And, we really couldn't go out and attack every message that was out there that was incorrect. And
you tried.
You just give those people credibility. So, and it just creates a bigger storm. So, it was difficult. It was difficult to manage. It was difficult to get through. The wrong messages, I think, were out there, especially on social media. It was an attack. Even myself personally, you get death threats. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't believe the kind of visceral hate there was out there.
So, when you hear those two clips, you go, okay, all right, he got tired of the fan pressure. Mm-hmm. And I think it sounded like there too, guys, that there was an allusion to organizational issues, meaning, he said the Babcock stuff, and there were other things, but I won't get into them. Meaning,
it's always good to let people use their imagination.
What's happening here is there's a painting of certain Leaf fans, and he does go on later in the interview to say, I don't mean all Leaf fans. I mean some, the crazies or whatever. And that's an important distinction to make. But and I don't think Darren Ferris is media trained, so I'm going to give him a pass on that one. I'm not too worried about that. I think what I find interesting is this, and this is going to be the running thread. And I know, Steve, you're just chomping at the bit.
I'm being a good boy.
They didn't need to talk about this.
No.
They could have sat down, done the interview, and go, we're done with talking about Toronto.
You never need to say anything.
You never need to say anything at all. Done talking about Toronto. I just want to talk about how excited I am to be in Vegas. They could have told both interviewers that, mm-hmm. and they could have done that. Mm-hmm. But what is abundantly clear is that both Marner and Darren Ferris want to set their own record about what happened and why they're leaving, because they feel the need, and this is the part I can't figure out, to justify leaving. Because why else would you talk about it? Right? It's your free agent right to leave. Save that for your autobiography, the reason why you left. But you feel the need to correct that record right now. And for me, listening to that, I go, why? I mean, you're a free agent. You can leave. And a lot of people already knew these answers, and they were widely reported.
You went to a good team for lots of money. But who's shocked by this?
Yeah, but they took it to a next level of, and you'll hear this a little bit with Mitch's answer. You hear it more with Darren Ferris, who I think is just naturally a little bit more talkative about the whole situation than Mitch is.
And himself.
And I think I find it to be odd that they needed to have this chat. And so what I would like to do now is move forward to the Mitch Marner interview with Mark Masters, if that's okay, Jesse. Can we do that? Actually, no. Let's go to the next clip. 47:10 in this one. My timings are all off on this. I don't know what happened, but I screwed up all the timings on my clips.
Adam, buddy, you just let me know when I get to go for a little run in the field.
This is the third one, and then I'm going to let you run in the field because I'm building up to
Yep.
Sometimes here's what an interview does, guys. At the beginning of an interview, you're going to get some canned answers and a little bit of candor. We're going from 15 minutes in to 47 minutes in, and this is where the walls are down, and you're going to start to hear the real answer come out a little bit. And there's one word that he uses. Go ahead, Jesse. Starting at 47:10.
In my mind, I don't like the cap. I don't like that we're restricted in those areas. Reducing the
this is really annoying. He doesn't like that. For whatever reason, the NHL site gave me these times when I went through it.
Oh, so it's not that one.
No, it's about the question is, on the ice, what do you think Mitch is most excited about being in Vegas?
Mitch.
Yes.
We're looking around the facility every day, wondering, is this going to be the day that he rolls in and gets things going? On the ice, what do you think he's most excited about?
I mean, he's going to play with Jack Eichel. The team is a competitive team. They're always competitive every year. So I think he's just excited to get going and get playing. I mean, he loves the game. He has insatiable appetite to play the game, and he's a smart player. Listen, he took all that criticism being a leading point getter even in the playoffs, and he still got attacked. There was just no winning, as far as off the ice.
Darren,
fans, which is unfortunate. Now, there was a large group that did support him. I shouldn't be poo-pooing on everything, because there are a lot of good people that are respectful and understand. Listen, it's always okay to have your critiques of players play, but when it gets personal, that's where it's and you attack family and the player personally. Those are the things that I think he'll be happy to have behind him.
Now we'll leave it there for a second. The key word here is attacked. Attacked is a big word. Like, it is. Your words matter, right? Attacked is a big word. Like, that is a big thing for an agent to say. So we've gone from it's noise to it's an attack. And that is where I think, I don't expect that everybody listening to this also heard this interview beforehand, but I think it's an important reference point before we get to the Mitch Marner clip. Now, do you want to talk about what you want to say now, or do you want me to play the Mitch Marner clip about why he says he left?
I'm making you wait.
You make us wait.
I want to hear from Mitch, and then we'll go.
We'll go to the TSN, and I do have...
He has something to say. We should hear it.
I have permission from TSN to use this, so you don't have to worry about that.
Oh, don't worry.
Mark Masters and Mitch sat down. I think this is the interview that went more viral than the John Shannon, Darren Millard one. And basically at 1:45, I'm assuming my timing's right here, Mark Masters just says, "Why'd you leave?" Which is a great question.
By the way, like John Shannon and Darren Millard, like getting an agent,
spectacular.
Great job.
Yeah.
Great job. Now we know all this stuff.
It was a lot. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was just saying, game 1 and 2 went amazing against Florida. Game 3 to 5 went really bad. 3 was actually a really good game. Went to, I think, overtime where they scored, late in the game to win it. But
overtime is late in the game.
We lose game 7 as we do, in a non-enjoyable way of all time, probably. Get home, you're pretty disappointed, you're pretty devastated at that. The thought also of it being my last Maple Leaf game at home. And then I get a phone call probably about 5 or so minutes after from, I think it was my wife's father called me and goes, I just want to let you know we've got people sending us screenshots of a guy posting your address online, saying that if people want to come pay us a visit and say, their goodbyes in a quotation way, here's the address. And it was a little tough, obviously. I mean, we kind of dealt with it for the last 2 years in a way. I mean, the market's very passionate. They love the team. I mean, I know it. I was born and raised there. I've been a part of the Leafs Nation for a long time. But when your family safety comes into question, especially having a new son, I don't think it's acceptable. Having full-time security pretty much at your house for 2 weeks after the playoffs just to make sure no one's coming to the house. Also the safety-wise of trying to walk your dog and your child. So it was a little unfortunate, but yeah, it's, we all deal with this stuff. It's just, sometimes it happens.
Went really bad is such an understatement to people who like that was just a devastating experience.
Went really bad of all time, probably. It's an awkward turn of phrase, but he's always awkward in front of a mic, so I'm giving him a pass on that one.
It just
too.
makes me chuckle.
Yeah.
A lot of people are calling what the incident that he's referring to a hoax. I think that's insane.
No, that happened. No, it happened.
Yeah, when he says
It did happen.
This happened, I wholeheartedly believe him.
No, I've seen the tweet that had to be taken down. Like it's a thing that
I
happened.
thought it was very weird that people were like, "Well, I haven't seen it."
No,
well, okay,
it was taken down. Like
that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
There was a reporter.
I don't think that even needs to be a conversation. Like those people are just, oh, Mitch is a liar. Like no, this happened. The Leafs dealt with it that night. It happened, and then all of this did happen. Like I think we need to move past the did this happen?
Yes.
conspiracy.
No, it happened.
It
They didn't
happened,
make it
guys.
up.
He's not lying. I've seen it. Yeah, I was there when it was going on during this whole playoffs.
It happened, and that it happened is ridiculous and awful, and no one should have to deal with that. This does strike me a little bit as, I'm not going to say using the truth to lie, which is a phrase that I like to use, but it's using the truth to bend the truth. This happened. 100% it happened. And it was bad. And, when he refused that trade to Carolina, even before that happened, I was like, his wife's God knows how many months pregnant. I'm not accepting a trade. Like, and I brought it back to remember the whole trade fiasco with John Scott ahead of the 2016 All-Star game. Part of what made that so heinous was his wife was like ready to pop, as well. And players get traded all the time, but this one was wonky and wasn't good. Anyway, he talked about like his young family's safety. Here, I'm going to read you something, and you let me know how this comes across. You piece of shit. Shut the fuck up about Marner. You know zero about the game, you little puke. You'll never get to speak to him again. So if I got that message from an angry fan, which when I first read it, I was like, oh, okay, well, like that's run of the mill. I get stuff like that all the time. You're a piece of shit. You're a fat fuck. You don't know how to skate, whatever. I get that all the time. Shut the fuck up. One day your kid's going to kill himself because of your videos. Yeah, you get stuff like that all the time, which is why I don't post them anymore. But when I got that message, everything was run-of-the-mill threatening, but run-of-the-mill until that last sentence. You'll never get to speak to Mitch again. And I went, who the hell is this? That's Marner's personal security guy. Personal security guy. This was June 2nd, 2021. So a couple days after
the Montreal loss.
So, these guys have been sensitive since more than last year.
Well, I'll just speak to that.
Ago.
We were blamed for something another podcast did, because there was another podcast out there that apparently, and I didn't hear this clip, so I can't really verify.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was another podcast that apparently said something along the lines of, people should dump garbage on his front lawn because he played like it or something like that. And we've never said that, and we never would, right? Like if I could say he played like garbage, that's acceptable. Saying you should go to his house and dump garbage on it is probably somebody who's younger at the game in terms of like media, and not realizing that those words, as I mentioned, the word attacked, they matter. You can't do that. And so we got sort of lumped in with them. You were still at Sportsnet at the time too.
I was. And so I escalated this with Sportsnet because I'm like, okay, they're coming after my access, which means, so there's already the threat of loss of something. This is probably going to affect my job because I have to talk to players sometimes. And he's saying you'll never speak to Marner again. One day Sportsnet's going to ask me to talk to Marner and he's going to refuse, and I'm going to have to explain why.
Yeah, you do have to let them know.
So you got to get ahead of it.
And also I find out this this guy is a security guard for an influential multimillionaire. Do you think that I might have interpreted that as a potential threat to my safety? It wasn't an implicit, I'm going to hurt you. But the implication is if you keep running your mouth, something bad is going to happen to you. And I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about my wife. I'm worried about my young child when this happened, right? And this fucking idiot, this buffoon of a man, is still going around. He was going around yesterday. He's still going around and he's commenting on everything, saying awful things to everybody. And it can't just be that Mitch is gone now, so he's letting loose. He talked shit about, in a comment, oh, yeah, Nylander's going after all of Marner's sponsorships now. This is how I know Toronto is a downright reasonable media market. Can you imagine if Luka Doncic's agent, after he was traded from the Mavericks to the Lakers, starts talking shit and going, well, Kyrie's now going after all of his sponsorship deals and fuck that guy. Can you imagine?
By the way, Nylander should do that. He should do that. Go get it.
Like what?
Why not?
Can you imagine the fuss? No one talked about it. No one even mentioned it. A bunch of you are going, is this true? Is Steve just making this? I could post it all if you like, because this buffoon is posting all of this online.
So what's the point here?
The point I am trying to make is what the Marner camp is saying is wildly hypocritical. It's true that no one should have to deal with what he's dealing with. And it would be awesome. And I think a lot of people would appreciate it if they practice what they preached. I escalated it with Sportsnet because this camp has been going around for years, complaining to bosses, trying to get people fired, threatening to take away access, and making people feel unsafe. That's relevant information to all that. This loving Care Bear persona. All right. When I hammered Alan Walsh years ago for the
Marc-Andre Fleury
sword thing, I criticized, it wasn't me hammering Alan. I was hammering Marc-Andre Fleury because I was like, this guy's agent works for him. Because the sword post had been up for, I think, over 24 hours at that point. And I'm like, the fact that this isn't down yet, that could be down with a text. That could be down with a phone call. And the fact that it isn't, to me, implies an endorsement of the message. So even though Marner isn't personally doing all this dirty work, is this not endorsement of the message from him? From the people around him, from his agent? Is that not endorsement of the message?
I think there was a call made to Sportsnet about something we said on this podcast too.
I
remember that. But
no, it wasn't. What it was we called a podcast. I think it was like, we called it Rich Marner because he
just signed an extension.
He had just signed an extension. It was Rich.
But we got blamed for
it rhymes with Mitch.
But they put up some sort of post about way to go, Paul, which was a big thing 6 years ago.
And did that go over like a shit at a wedding?
We didn't have anything to do with that. But the Rich Marner thing was like, it was the name of the show. It was just, I mean, he is rich.
And I'm pretty sure we either changed it or were asked to change it or were heavily, please change this. Or
yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
No, we changed it.
Yeah.
In an effort to not put Sportsnet in a bad position, but also it's like, hey man, like you don't have to love us, but like we are going to have to run in the same circles here for a while.
Yeah. The other thing I would like to say, unless you guys want to say something, or if I could go for a different run in the field.
Yeah.
What I saw a lot of with Mitch's comments after this interview, Toronto fans are the worst. I hope they never win again. I hope.
Well, I would expect another fan of a team say Toronto.
Yeah.
I want
I
that.
hope Mitch. No, because of this, because of what these fans did. And like Leaf fans are the biggest and the loudest. They are not blameless. One thing Leaf fans did this summer that I thought was disgusting is Brendan Shanahan's daughter posted a TikTok that he was in. And I think it was up a couple hours before getting deleted. I assume because the comments were awful. Ugh. That's fucked up. That's stupid. Like, okay, it was time for him to go. What are you doing?
Yeah. He's gone. Leave him alone and leave his daughter alone. Are you fucking
What the fuck is the matter
You're
with
a
you?
lunatic and you need help.
Yes. So, presumably, the fact that you hope the Leafs never win again and you hope Mitch wins immediately is because this is the only place where this happens. Okay. Well, everyone put their hand up, and if you hear your name, put it down. Stuart Skinner's wife reacts to their family received death threats from Edmonton Oilers fans. NHL, St. Louis police looking into threats made towards Avalanche's Nazem Kadri. Maple Leafs player received death threats after Patrick Laine hits. That was Cedric Pare. Cutter Gauthier says he has received death threats in aftermath of Flyers trade. NHL investigates Ovechkin death threat. Lightning's JT Brown gets death threats after protest. From death threats to corporate backlash, Russian NHL players in a very difficult spot. Panthers Michael Matheson, had death threats after hit on Canucks Elias Pettersson. Now, there are more than one example of Leaf fans, so don't worry, I will get to those. Jake DeBrusk says he received death threats from Maple Leafs fans. Too many to count. Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Thomas Caberlet was beloved by the fan base, and when Cam Jansen hit him, some fans didn't know how to handle it, and he received death threats. In the midst of controversy, Kevin Hayes addressed the situation regarding false claims linking him to Cutter Gauthier's decision not to sign with the Flyers. Kevin Hayes says he got death threats over media members making shit up. Elvis Merzlikins, the Blue Jackets' current starting goalie, while Joonas Korpisalo recovers from injury, has struggled to start the season behind a weak team. Today, his wife revealed that their family has received death threats from Blue Jackets fans. NHL fan favorite referee Wes McCauley and Toronto Maple Leafs fans have been butting heads since blah, blah, blah. Leaf fans sent death threats to Wes McCauley. I don't have to read the whole headline for all of you. Timo Meier received a death threat from St. Louis Blues fans after his hand pass goal in 2019. Former Canucks draft pick report. Do I have to?
Yeah,
it happens. Or have I made my point?
The way all those people, I think, are looked at by those individual fan bases is the reasonable way. And anybody who's a fan of the Flyers or the Sharks or the Leafs would say that those people who do those things to Brendan Shanahan's daughter, to Mitch Marner, and issue those death threats, they would say that person's not a part of our fan base. That person's not a Leafs fan. That is a crazy person who needs help, who needs to not have their internet access taken away.
Yeah.
And the part that bothers me about the way Mitch Marner and Darren Ferris went about things is that they use that crazy fan who nobody in the fan base would say is a fan of the team. They're something else. They use those isolated incidents as a way to characterize the entire fan base.
Yes.
They continue to do that in both
or as
of
a
those
justification for leaving, which
both.
I'm sorry, and Jesse, I'm going to interject for 2 seconds. This decision was not made this spring. I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Jesse.
No, I think it's very true in that like they took this isolated incident and they're now using it as a way to spin the narrative for this is how Leaf fans are. This is why he's gone, when we all know that that's not the case. And there are 18 other skaters on the team that exist here and they're fine. And they just keep going about their business. And that's not a reason to leave the team.
There was a fan brawl between MLS fans this past weekend.
I didn't know that. I don't have the
MLS. Imagine.
Well, it's soccer.
Getting in a fist fight and ending up in the hospital or jail because of an MLS game. Holy shit!
I appreciate that. I appreciate the fandom.
You know. All right. You know what? Maybe they're right.
Maybe we need to do more of that.
Maybe, you know what? No.
I think there's something more going on here. And I think there's an answer in there where Mitch Marner, Mark Masters asked Mitch Marner, he's like, okay, so what's your message to the fans now that you're gone? And Mitch starts the answer by saying, there's a lot of negativity in the fan base, and it's hard to get through that. And I could play it for you there. But it's just his mindset wasn't built for this situation. And I think early on it was fine, but somewhere along the line, his tenure as a Toronto Maple Leaf, it became too much for him.
I think we know the somewhere.
Where do you think?
Contract negotiations 2019.
Sure. Like, I don't know the specific instance, but it definitely took a turn somewhere.
Absolutely.
Where he became uncomfortable himself with attention and the fans having expectations of him, and then him not being able to deliver those expectations, and then the blowback from that, and it's just a feedback loop where he just started hating the Leafs fans.
Yeah,
and that's the reality.
Him and
of
his
it.
camp,
and he can't get away from the negativity. I don't, whether it's him looking at it himself or the people around him sending it to him constantly. He can't get over that hump, and he never could, and that's why he had to leave. And it's nothing to do with death threats and any of that stuff.